In the early morning hours of November 21st, armed assailants raided a school in Niger State, Nigeria, and abducted an unconfirmed number of students and staff. Welcome to Africa Watch 360, calm, clear, and focused news you can trust. Today, we are taking a deeper look at the attack on St. Mary's School in Bapapir. We're going to break down the verified facts, the official response, and some of the really critical security context surrounding this entire event. Now, according to detailed reports from both Vanguard News and The Guardian, this incident brings up some incredibly serious questions about school security in a region that's been facing these kinds of threats for some time. We're going to walk through the timeline, dig into the controversy over a government directive, and examine the intelligence that might just link this abduction to a very recent military operation.
Right at the heart of this entire story is this one statement. It introduces a really complex and, frankly, difficult layer of accountability. The Niger state government, and an official release that was cited by both Vanguard and The Guardian, didn't just frame this as a tragic attack. They called it an avoidable one. And that one word, well, it immediately created two competing narratives. On one side, you have the story of a violent assault by armed groups, but on the other, you have this narrative of a security warning that was allegedly ignored. This statement right here, it really sets the stage for a tough conversation about responsibility and ultimately how to protect students in these high-risk zones. It is the central point of contention, and we're going to examine it from all angles.
So to really understand what's going on, we have to ground ourselves in the geography. Where did this happen? The attack took place in a community called Papiri, which is inside the Aglere local government area of Niger State. Now, this is important because it's located in the Niger North Senatorial District, a region the state government had already flagged as having an elevated security threat level. According to a resident who was cited by the news agency of Nigeria, the school itself is located about 8 kilometers from the main town of Agwara. This detail is significant because it places the school squarely inside the zone that was subject to the government's security advisory. That fact is going to become absolutely crucial as this story unfolds.
Okay, so now let's turn to the verified details of the attack itself. It's so important in these situations to separate the confirmed facts from the preliminary reports, just so we can get a clear picture of what exactly happened that night.
According to Vanguard News, the Christian Association of Nigeria, or CAN, confirmed that the invasion happened sometime between 1 and 3 a.m. The assailants shot a security guard before they began abducting their victims. A local source also told The Guardian that the attackers arrived in large numbers, all on motorcycles. They also reportedly stole a car, likely to transport the students, but that vehicle broke down nearby and was abandoned. Now, this malfunction allegedly allowed some of the students to escape into the bush, while others managed to scale the school fence during all the chaos. It's important to note, at the time of these initial reports, the exact number of abductees remained unconfirmed, as local officials were working hard to verify the school's records.
The response from both authorities and civil society was immediate. The Niger State Police Command, speaking through its spokesperson SP Wasiu Abudun, confirmed they had deployed tactical teams. In a statement that was reported by Vanguard, he noted that these police units, along with military components, were already combing the adjoining forests to try and rescue the victims. The Christian Association of Niger State in Niger State, led by its chairman Rev Bulus Yohana, came out and strongly condemned the attack. In his statement, he described the incident as, quote, distressing and unacceptable, and he affirmed that CAN was working very closely with security agencies to support the rescue efforts. And all the while, local government officials began that critical, painstaking work of establishing a precise count of the missing students and staff.
But here's where the story gets more complex. Beyond the attack itself, the official government response introduced this narrative of a preventable tragedy, and that really shifted the focus to a security directive that was issued before the incident ever took place.
Okay, so let's break this down. According to a statement from the secretary to the state government, Abubakar Usman, which was widely reported, the government had gotten its hands on prior intelligence. This intelligence indicated an increased threat level in parts of the Niger North Senatorial District. So, in response, they issued a very clear directive ordering the temporary closure of all boarding schools within that specific zone as a precautionary measure. However, and this is the key part, the government statement claims, and I'm quoting here, regrettably, St. Mary's School proceeded to reopen and resume academic activities without notifying or seeking clearance from the state government. This alleged non-compliance, at least from the government's point of view, exposed the pupils and staff to what it called an avoidable risk. It is so important to emphasize that this is the government's official account of the events that led up to this attack.
The gravity of the government's allegation was then reinforced by the police. In his statement confirming the deployment of rescue teams, police spokesperson SP Wasu Abiodun added a really significant detail as reported by the news agency of Nigeria. He stated that necessary action would be taken against the school management for allegedly defying that state government closure directive. Now, what does this comment signal? It tells us that, parallel to the search and rescue operation, an official investigation into schools' decision-making is likely already underway, and that could potentially lead to some very serious consequences for its leadership.
So now, we need to turn to a critical piece of intelligence that provides a potential motive for this whole thing. According to security sources, the raid on St. Mary's may not have been random at all. Instead, it could be directly connected to a major military success against a terror network that happened just days earlier.
Let's just look at the timeline here, because the sequence is really telling. According to Vanguard, on November 18th, a Nigerian Air Force airstrike in the Shiroro local government area of Niger State neutralized a notorious commander known simply as Babangida. He was described by a credible security source as a key lieutenant to the infamous kingpin Dogogida. Just one day later, on November 19th, it was reported that community leaders actually visited the home of Dogogida's mother, who was reportedly in mourning for her son's closest aide. And then only 2 days after that, the attack on St. Mary's School occurred. The sequence has led intelligence analysts to draw a pretty direct line between that military operation and this school abduction.
A security source explained the potential motive to the news agency of Nigeria. One interpretation is that this abduction was a retaliatory show of force. So what does that actually mean in simple terms? Well, the attack was designed to send a message. After losing a key commander, the group's loyalists may have launched this kind of high-profile attack to prove that they are still a capable and a very dangerous force. The goal here would be to reassert their relevance and to sow fear after taking a major hit from the military.
The importance of this military strike really can't be understated. A senior intelligence officer who was speaking to the press on the condition of anonymity described the killing of Commander Babangida as a significant blow to Dogogida's network. But he also warned that the faction might try to carry out additional reprisal attacks, specifically targeting vulnerable communities and schools. This assessment, coming from within the intelligence community, lends some serious weight to the theory that the St. Mary's School abduction was a direct and calculated response to that commander's death.
Okay, let's do a quick recap so far because there are a few moving parts here. An abduction happened at a school that had reportedly been warned by the government to stay closed. Just before that attack, a military airstrike eliminated a key terror commander. And now, security sources are suggesting these two events are directly linked, with the abduction being a likely act of retaliation. Now, to fully grasp the significance of this, we have to place it in a much broader context. You see, the attack on St. Mary's is not an isolated event. It is part of a deeply worrying pattern of insecurity that's affecting schools all across the region.
As The Guardian reported, this abduction happened just 4 days after a separate attack on a school in nearby Kebbi State. That alone highlights a regional vulnerability. But on top of that, Vanguard reports that in neighboring Kwara State, a recent church attack prompted the government to take even more drastic preventative measures. What this pattern points to is a systematic targeting of educational institutions, which, are often seen as soft targets by these armed groups.
Just think about this for a second. In response to that church attack, the Kwara state government ordered the shutdown of more than 50 schools as a precaution. That single number, 50, powerfully illustrates the scale of the disruption we're talking about. It's not just about one attack. It's about the chilling effect that ripples across the entire education system. When dozens of schools close their doors, tens of thousands of students are left without access to learning, and it creates this climate of fear that extends far beyond the immediate area of any one incident.
Look, this situation raises some really profound concerns about the safety of students and educators. These recurring incidents have, unsurprisingly, revived urgent calls for strengthened security measures at schools. This has sparked a huge debate over how best to protect these soft targets. Is it through more security personnel? Is it community vigilance? Or is it stricter adherence to government protocols? But the problem runs even deeper. This crisis isn't just about security logistics. It's about the future of an entire generation. When schools become battlegrounds, the long-term impact on society is absolutely devastating. It disrupts education, it fuels a cycle of poverty and disenfranchisement, and it completely erodes trust between communities and the state. The challenge is immense, and the stakes could not be any higher.
And all of this brings us to the final critical question. When a government issues a security directive to close schools, and a school allegedly defies it, a very complex dilemma of responsibility emerges.
Now, let's be clear. The primary culprits are, without question, the armed assailants who carried out this attack. But the situation at St. Mary's complicates the picture, and it leaves us with this lingering question. When official directives and school operations conflict, who is ultimately responsible for student safety? Rescue operations are ongoing, and this story is still evolving. The next update could change everything. We'll continue to follow this story. Stay subscribed for more clear, deep analysis from Africa Watch 360.